Newsfirst at 9. Headlines.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News live on MTV Sport and Shakti TV on News First. I'm Shahin Durrangpati and here are your headlines. Ruling party MPs submit proposal seeking prevention of UN inquiry panel visiting Sri Lanka. Number of dengue patients on the rise. Most number of patients reported from the Western Province. 46 Indian fishermen in remand custody released. All preparations made for the Uber Posan Udayana. Australia ready to offer Iraq assistance after the fall of Mosul. And finally, FIFA World Cup 2014 to kick off in Brazil tomorrow. Well, those are tonight's headlines. We now cross over to the main news desk for these stories in detail.
Well, thank you very much, Shine. A very good evening. I'm Adishka Balasuriya.
And I'm Minoshi Ratnasekara. First up, we'll take a look at your top story for tonight. A proposal calling for the prevention of the panel appointed by the United Nations Human Rights Chief Navi Pillay to investigate human rights violations in Sri Lanka was presented in Parliament today.
The proposal contains the signatures of 9 ruling party MPs. UPFA parliamentarian H.M. Azhar presented the proposal to Parliament General Secretary Dhammika Dasanayaka today. The proposal was endorsed by 9 parliamentarians including Achala Jagoda, Malani Fonseca, Janaka Priyantha Bandara, Udita Loku Bandara, H.M. Azhar, Shanta Bandara, J.R.P. Surya Perima, Nimal Vijay Singha and Duminda Silva. Addressing the 26th session of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva yesterday, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Navi Pillay noted that her office had put together a team comprising of experts and special procedure mandate holders to conduct an inquiry into Sri Lanka. However, Sri Lanka's permanent mission to the UN in Geneva was quick to respond. The mission noted that Sri Lanka has reiterated that it will not cooperate with the OHCHR-driven so-called comprehensive investigation. Speaking at the Council session yesterday, Sri Lanka's permanent representative to the UN in Geneva, Ravinatha Arya Singha, noted that the resolution adopted with the support of less than half the membership of the Council challenges the sovereignty and independence of a member nation of the UN. He added that the resolution also violates the principles of international law.
In order to decide as to what steps should be taken about the resolution that has been submitted to the Honourable Speaker by 9 parliamentarians of the ruling party, Honourable Speaker has convened a meeting of the party leaders which is scheduled to be held on coming Friday at 12:30. At such meeting, as to what step would be taken with regard to the resolution submitted will be decided.
Now, in the meantime, TNA parliamentarian M.A. Sumandiran has called on the government to cooperate with an international inquiry. Now, he made this statement at a media briefing convened by the Unity Through Power Devolution movement.
An international inquiry has commenced because even after 5 years there has been no inquiry. After the international inquiry has commenced, they are saying that it is a national problem that they will resolve domestically. If they wanted to initiate a domestic inquiry, they could have done so over the past 5 years. At this point, if they have nothing to hide, then we ask the government to cooperate with this international inquiry. If you have complete faith that soldiers did not commit crimes, then you need not falter and you can face this international inquiry. The inquiry is being conducted into both parties that were at war. Do not portray this country as one which hides the truth and violates human rights.
The Epidemiology Unit of the Ministry of Health says that 13,323 cases of dengue have been reported in the past 6 months. Whilst the highest number of patients have been reported from the Western Province, the Colombo municipality has the unfortunate distinction of being the worst affected. The Chief Medical Officer of CMC, Dr. Ruan Vijayamuni, says that the situation is dire in the Colombo North and Colombo East areas.
The rapid spread of dengue has been attributed to poor hygiene in homes, offices and workplaces. Health authorities know that the dengue-carrying female mosquito can lay up to 200 and 300 eggs at once. A single female mosquito can lay up to 1,500 eggs in her short lifespan, and with about 50% of these eggs turning out to be female, this has been cited as the main cause for the increase in the mosquito population. Doctors say that locations conducive to mosquito breeding must be destroyed in order to eradicate this menace.
ඩෙන්ගු මර්ධනය සඳහා දීර්ඝ කාලයක ඉඳලා නීති පනවලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් අපිට අදත්
laws have been implemented for the eradication of dengue. However, we are still speaking about this disease even today. Where did we go wrong? Rather than pointing fingers at the authorities, we should change our habits.
අපේ පුරුදු වෙනස් කරගත යුතුයි.
There are countries in this world like Cuba and Singapore which have won this fight. This has been done through public participation. As individuals, each of us has a responsibility for our lives and the lives of our children. And if we are not proactive, the dengue epidemic will continue to spread and it will end in a catastrophe.
5,044 dengue cases have been reported from the Colombo district this year. 1,303 patients have been reported in the Colombo municipality. 14 patients were reported from Kirlopana yesterday alone.
The main causes for the high number of dengue patients reported from areas like Modara, Mutwal, Mahawatta, Kirula, Kirlopana and Grand Pass South is the high population density and the number of small homes that are packed together, which creates a high probability of mosquito breeding within these homes. The problem is that the people in these areas have not turned their attention towards cleaning up areas conducive for mosquito breeding, as observed by us.
While 78 patients are being treated for dengue at the National Hospital in Colombo, hospital authorities say the condition of 17 patients has elevated to the more fatal dengue hemorrhagic fever.
Patients with dengue hemorrhagic fever receive special attention. We have a large number of patients with fever arriving at the outpatients department. Over the recent past, we have taken steps to see patients with fever separately, and if their fever persists for more than 2 days, on the third day we take a blood sample and we are able to determine quickly, within 20 to 30 minutes, whether they are patients who are at risk of contracting dengue.
20 children are being treated for dengue at the Lady Ridgeway Children's Hospital in Colombo, while 5 children have been diagnosed with dengue hemorrhagic fever.
There has been a significant spike in the number of patients over the past several weeks. When you develop a fever, instead of experimenting with various treatments, visit a qualified doctor. Do not use other medication. At times, certain types of medication can induce hemorrhaging. This further complicates the patient's condition. A situation could arise where it is difficult for doctors to diagnose patients.
Director of the Colombo South Teaching Hospital, Dr. Asela Gunawardana, says that 161 patients are being treated for dengue at the hospital. 2 of them are in the intensive care unit.
Now, health officials lament that the government alone cannot control the spread of dengue. What are your views on this grave issue? You can post your views and comments on facebook.com/newsfirst.english.
Now moving into another headline-making story. 46 Indian fishermen held in remand custody in Sri Lanka were released today. They were released after being produced before the Mannar Magistrates Court.
46 Indian fishermen who were released today were arrested recently off the coast of Talaimana. The court did not authorize the release of the fishermen's boats and equipment today. The Assistant Director of the Fisheries Department office in Mannar, B.F. Mirinda, told Newsfirst that the Indian fishermen were handed over to the Indian Deputy High Commissioner's office. 36 Indian fishermen released by the Kites Magistrate Court yesterday have also been handed over to the Indian Deputy High Commissioner's office. In spite of the release of the 82 fishermen, a strike action initiated by fishermen in Rameshwaram, Tamil Nadu, in protest of their capture has not concluded. The fishing community in Rameshwaram is demanding that the fishermen's boats and equipment be released as well. Newsfirst correspondent in Rameshwaram says that fishermen wore black face masks and engaged in a demonstration today. Meanwhile, at the weekly media briefing of the Media Centre of the Ministry of Defence and Urban Development, Army spokesperson Brigadier Ruwan Wanigasurya had this to say.
සූදෑසනක් කිසිදු අවලාදයක් නැගීම සුදුසු වන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ කරන්නේ ජාතික ආරක්ෂාවට අත්‍යවශ්‍ය කාර්යයක්.
It is not suitable to complain about this. This is a necessary task to uphold national security. The Sri Lankan Navy has never violated the maritime boundary of another nation and arrested people. Such an invasive policy has never been followed, neither will such a policy be followed. I believe that Navy regulations also prohibit them from doing so. Various factions ask us why we arrest these people and why we do not just let them go. Such questions are a joke. It is right to arrest them because they have violated sovereign boundaries.
එහෙම කියලා. ඉතින් ඒක හරි විහිළුවක් එහෙම යන්න ඇරියොත් මම හිතන්නේ අත්අඩංගුවට ගැනීම තමයි හරි ක්‍රියාවලිය. මන්ද ඒ අය දේශීය සීමා උල්ලංඝනය කිරීමක් සිදු වෙන නිසා.
Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff says her country is ready on and off the pitch for the Football World Cup, which starts tomorrow. In a TV address, she said the pessimists had been defeated by the determination of the Brazilian people.
That's right. In the opening match of World Football Showpiece event tomorrow, host Brazil will take on Croatia. Shine Jurampati joins us now with a special report on the FIFA World Cup 2014.
In 1950, Brazil had the opportunity to win a World Cup at home, but this dream was shattered by Uruguay. Now 64 years later, Brazil have been given the opportunity once again to win a World Cup at home at the fortress of Brazilian football, the Maracanã Stadium, amid the adulation of millions of fans.
Welcome to the fifth largest country in the world. Brazil has a population of close to 200 million. This is the second time that Brazil, a football-crazed nation where many young boys take to the sport when they are toddlers, will be hosting the World Cup. The 32 best international football teams will clash in 12 stadiums over a month to determine who will be crowned world champions for the next 4 years. Hosts Brazil joined defending champion Spain and Italy, Germany, Argentina, Uruguay, France and England as being among the favourites to win world football's most coveted prize.
Now, while the whole world waits with bated breath for the beginning of the FIFA World Cup 2014, some sections of Brazil have not gelled the euphoria. Now, this graffiti on a wall in Rio de Janeiro is a symbol of their dissatisfaction. As always, the story of the Football World Cup is one that extends beyond the four corners of the field.
Brazil is spending a mammoth $6.5 billion on hosting the 2014 World Cup. The country has seen a year of protests against bad governance and perceived excessive spending on the World Cup. Demonstrators charged that the money would have been better spent on social welfare. Street artists joined the protesters with creative portrayals of their grievances on the walls of Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo. The head of the World Cup Local Organizing Committee, Ricardo Trade, said that while strikes would be a nightmare, the authorities were prepared and inside the stadium it will be a show. In a TV address, Brazil's president remained defiant and said that the World Cup, which commences tomorrow, will provide a sufficient response to critics.
There are people who claim the resources for the Cup should have been directed to healthcare and education. I hear and respect those opinions, but I don't agree with them. It is a false dilemma. We enjoy more absolute freedoms and we coexist with popular demonstrations and demands that help us improve every day our democratic institutions. Institutions that support us in guaranteeing the right to demonstrate and to curb excesses and radicalism of any kind.
As obras dos estádios.
Still in local news, President Mahinda Rajapaksa engaged in religious observances at the ancient Somawati Rajamaha Vihare last evening.
Subsequent to the religious observances that were held close to the Botri at the premises, the Mahasangha, including the chief incumbent of the Somawati Rajamaha Vihara, chanted Pirith. The two-story building that was constructed adjacent to the Somawati Rajama Vihara was declared open by President Mahinda Rajapaksa. The President also inquired into the well-being of the chief incumbent of the Somawati Rajama Vihara, Venerable Pahamune Sri Sumangala Thero. A group including the Anunayaka of the Malwatha chapter, Venerable Niyangoda Vijita Siri Thero, the Mahasangha and ministers were present at this event. President Mahinda Rajapaksa also declared open the Somawati Road in Polonnaruwa today.
Meanwhile, the Uva Poson Udane will be declared open at the Umala in Uva Paranagama Valley Madi tomorrow. Our correspondents say that all preparations for the event have been completed.
Uva Poson Udane is being held centered around the Sri Sudarshana Rama Vihara in Umayala, Uva Paranagama. The event is a joint initiative of the Uva Paranagama United Buddhist Organization and Newsfirst. The sacred hair relic of Lord Buddha at the Yatihalagala Rajamahavihara in Kandy will also be featured at the Poson zone. The procession carrying the sacred relic is scheduled to depart the Yatihalagala Rajamahavihara at 6 a.m. tomorrow and reach the Sri Sudarshana Rama Vihara in Umayala at about 3 p.m. via Nuwarelia. The exposition of the sacred hair relic will continue until Saturday. The Uva Poson Udane Poson zone will also feature pandals, lanterns, performances of songs of devotion, dansals and a replica of Mihintale. An art exhibition for school children in the area is also to be held at 9 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday at the Madhavala Mahavidyalaya. The preliminary round of the Songs of Devotion competition organized for school children in the Uva Paranagama and Valimada education divisions parallel to the Uva Poson Udane was held yesterday. 10 teams that displayed exceptional talent will participate in the final on Saturday. A discussion on the preparations for the Poson zone was held at the Sri Sudarshana Rama Vihara in Umayala today.
Now, demonstrations citing various demands were staged in several parts of the island.
A demonstration was staged by university students today against the decision taken to close the Institute of Indigenous Medicine of the University of Colombo last evening. The demonstrators commenced a march from the hostel of the institute in Rajagaria and made their way to the Institute of Indigenous Medicine.
Rather than providing answers to our issues, they had decided to close the institute previously on the 19th of March. They are unnecessarily oppressing the students and have decided to close the institution once again with no basis. If we are not given a permanent solution, we will continue our struggle.
Meanwhile, a group of midwives from the Kandy district staged a demonstration opposite the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital. They charged that the director of the hospital is not permitting them to engage in their work in the hospital.
Are they doing this in fear of the nursing service or in loyalty to the nurses' union? If the director continues to prevent the midwives from carrying out their duties, all the midwives will step away from all duties from Monday.
Subsequently, the midwives met with the director of the hospital. Teachers and parents staged a demonstration against the transfer of the principal of the Agalawatha Bellana Mahavidyalaya in Kalutara.
Discipline in the school reached a proper standard after this principal was appointed. She developed all the resources. The children did not have any water. There were no sanitation facilities. She's a principal who brought in many facilities. We want this principal back.
Locals staged a protest against the dumping of garbage in a section of the standard estate by the Hatton Dikoya Urban Council. The demonstrators met with the Superintendent of Police in Hatton to discuss the issue.
When we submit their names to court on the 17th, they will have to appear. If not, the mayor will have to be held accountable.
Well, if you're just joining us, you're watching Primetime News on MTV Sports, and it's time now for Action TV.
The purpose of the task that was undertaken by the Katana Pradeshya Sabha in the Raddolugama housing scheme today could be interpreted as being to give an opportunity to the people from about 4,000 families at the scheme who pay assessment rates to this council to breathe freely. On the 16th of May, Action TV revealed the evasion of responsibility on the part of the Katana Pradeshya Sabha that had led to the people of the Raddolugama housing scheme being deprived of the chance to breathe freely. At sunrise yesterday, the sub-office of the Pradeshya Sabha located within the housing scheme itself had turned into a makeshift landfill. As a result of the waste that was dumped at the sub-office being removed from the area, on the same day, staff who did not report to work yesterday did report to work today, since the task of collecting taxes and shoring up funds cannot be disregarded like the task of collecting and disposing of waste. The Pradeshya Sabha's decision to collect and dispose of the waste here today, following the last instance on which they did so on the 27th of March, was a great relief to the residents of Raddolugama. When you show it on the TV, they come and collect the waste. But if the assessment rates are not paid, then they send letters noting that they will come to the houses and take away everything. While the task that was commenced today must be continued over the next few days, it is also important to note that waste has collected on either side of byroads on this housing scheme. One cannot prevent the finger being pointed at the Pradeshya Sabha and the Waste Management Authority of the Provincial Council for the failure to carry out the task of disposing of this waste for over more than 2 months. This could also be interpreted as evidence of the gaping holes that exist in the Dengue Prevention Act.
Now, UNP parliamentarian Sajid Premadasa alleges that expressways have become death traps. He made this statement at an event held at the Hambantota Port village last evening.
Everyone thought that these expressways would be a road to Nirvana. But recently we have seen that for the people, these expressways have become more of a road to hell than a road to Nirvana. There were major floods recently. The interchanges along the expressway were all affected. Thousands of people living on either side of the interchanges were displaced. This is because when the expressway was being constructed, it was substandard. They did not compile strong feasibility reports. There was no proper study on the environmental impact. They have built roads as per their whim, stuck an expressway label on them and have turned them into express death traps. This event was organized to donate furniture for the use of the people of the Hambantota Port village and to make a financial donation towards the activities of the community organization.
The passage of time is said to heal many wounds. 24 years ago, on a day like today, over 700 police personnel were shot dead by the LTTE, and we found a witness to the incident. This is a Newsfirst special report.
The 3 decades of conflict saw the death and destruction of thousands, and not even a fragment of life was left untouched by the cruelty of the war. Among the many episodes that tarnished the social fabric of this country, the events that took place 24 years ago were of special significance to the Sri Lanka police. 11th of June 1990 was known as the saddest day in the history of the Sri Lanka police. Over 700 policemen from the eastern province were forcibly taken into the Kanchikudichi jungle and were shot dead by the LTTE after they were asked to surrender by the authorities. Sub-Inspector Shanta Ranavira was among the very few who survived the incident, and today he recollected what happened 24 years ago.
They took us into the Kanchikudiaru jungle blindfolded, with our arms bound, and then made us lie down before shooting us dead. Men who stood up and attempted to go were also shot in the head. When they moved away, I went forward with my shattered arm and sat down. While I was seated, I saw them coming with another group of persons who they shot dead. When they went away, I went to see if anyone else had survived. There was no one. I then stumbled away. It was evening the next day when I finally came upon a village. I lost consciousness several times.
By around 6:30 in the evening on the 11th of June, the Kalmune police station had become a lake of blood, with 24 of Sub-Inspector Shanta Ranavira's comrades departing this world.
While I was at the Kandy Hospital, President Ranasinghe Premadasa visited me. He believed that I had to be taken abroad for treatment. Today we serve in the police department as disabled officers. There are about 1,700 of us. Shouldn't we get a wage increment at least? I wonder whether there is anyone left to remember what happened on a day like this. I don't think there is anyone left in the Ampara Police Division who remembers. It is a major problem.
24 years after, Shantha Ranavira still holds the rank of sub-inspector. He showed off his press clippings depicting his heroism with a sense of pride. We could not help but feel that the look in his eyes was an expression of hope that this would not be just another story. 5 years after the conflict in our island, while wounds may be healing, some memories are hard to erase, and some acts of heroism are yet to find their way into the records.
The Superintendent of the Employees Provident Fund, PWDNR Rodrigo, says that members need not have any suspicion with regard to receiving benefits. Speaking to Newsfirst, he said that the fund is currently being built up with proper management.
The Employees Provident Fund, or EPF, established under Act No. 15 of 1958 of Parliament, is the country's largest fund, amounting to 1,300 billion rupees. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has been entrusted with the management of the fund, including the collection of contributions, investing surplus funds and paying benefits to members. Various views were expressed in the recent past over the management of the fund, its investments and the payment of benefits.
Now, EPF is the biggest fund in the country. We have a fund base of around 1.3 trillion or 1,300 billion. So we are the biggest profit earning entity in the country. For the past 5 years, if you take the average, we have on average earned rupees 558 billion profit for the members.
A program to eradicate the invasive plant species Parthenium from the Eastern Province commenced today. The Eastern Province Ministry of Agriculture will purchase a kilogram of Parthenium for 10 rupees under this program. Provincial Minister of Agriculture Ponnature Aingaranesan says that 12 centres have been established across the province to purchase the plants. He added that if Parthenium plants are found on any private lands, legal action will be initiated against the landowner. Now moving into some sports news, the semi-final round of Super Fighter, Sri Lanka's first reality sports TV program, is to take place on the 24th of this month. The 16 boxers who qualified from the quarter-finals will be vying for a spot in the semis. The 16 contenders are reaching in-house training in Pallekele Kandy. Super Fighter is a joint initiative of Newsfirst, MTV and MBC and MAS Holdings.
Up next is a look at the weather with Shahin Rampati.
Good evening and welcome to Weather First here on News First. I'm Shahin Rampati. Now the Department of Meteorology forecast showers at several places in the western, Sub-Rogama and central provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts. Now the showers are likely to extend to the northwestern province as well. The Department of Meteorology says that southwest monsoonal winds will strengthen at times in the island, especially along the western slopes of the central hills. Now if you take a look around the sea areas of the island, showers or thunder showers at several places in the sea areas of the coast extending from Putlam to Porterville via Colombo and Galle are expected. Now while winds will be southwesterly, wind speeds will be up to 30 to 40 kilometers per hour. Now the department says that winds can strengthen up to 60 kilometers per hour. However, as a whole, the sea areas around the island will be rough. Now with that, let's take a look at the city by city weather forecast for the next 24 hours.
Well, I don't know about you, Inoshi, but Shaheen seems to be our very own Superman. He's everywhere today.
Indeed.
But yes, with that, we wrap up this edition of Primetime News. As always, I'm Madhushka Balasurya.
It's a pleasure having you with us. I'm Inoshi Ratnasekara. Take care and good night.
Good night.
Hotline 0114-896-896 www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.